And so we're going to talk about telephone repeaters. You see these lots of times on eBay with different things, and a lot of people don't know what they are, and they are sort of cool. So, like I said, I thought we'd go over what they are. Basically, repeating came out of the early days of telephone in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when they didn't have electronics at the time to build like amplifiers or equalizers or any echo cancelers or any of the modern stuff they had that they could use to extend the length of the phone wire. They had to find some way to do it using what they knew at the time, magnets and coils and transformers and stuff like that. So what they basically did is they discovered after a lot of trial and error that if you had this gauge of wire made out of this material and you went this far, you needed to add a repeater of this size. And the commercial development got pretty good at it. When World War I came along, basically the U.S. Army just went and bought all commercial equipment, telephones and all their switchboard equipment, and threw it in theaters. So they're using civilian stuff. And it remained like this into the 1920s. They used civilian stuff. The Army then decided, you know what, we need to really modernize and standardize and develop our own system for doing this kind of stuff. So what they did is they developed the E8 telephone, the BD 71 and 72 phone switches, and they came up with standardized types of field wire. So everything was the same. And they came up with this. This is a C114 loading coil. And this was used to extend the range of basically EE8 telephones or the BD, the switches themselves. And basically what the Army discovered that by using a standard field wire, every mile or so you'd place one of these repeaters and it improved the range of your voice communications. Like I said, they're passive, they have no batteries, so you'd hook them up and they basically work by cleaning up the wires and the signal and made everything work better. It didn't increase the power, made it work better, made it sound better. Lots of times it filtered off any possible hums or static on the line. So basically by doing that you could hear it better. And basically they decided, like I said, every mile, they went ahead and standardized their field wire lengths also. So basically they went to a mile, standard spool was a mile. So you run a mile of field wire, install a coil. Run a mile of field wire, install a coil. And it was a lot easier for the wire guys when they're running wires to quickly stick them inside here and hook one side here and the new spool here, and away you go and tighten these up. And these were the piercing type of terminals. They just pierced right through the insulation. And you'd run and go ahead, another wire, drop another repeater. Also made recovery a lot easier. You didn't have to cut splices. You just unscrewed these, picked the wire up, and away you went. They actually came out in their manuals and explained, they basically had three different kinds of wire, what the different wires were, how far you would need to put repeaters to get a average range increase of this far. You didn't want to put them any closer than roughly 1,000 feet or so to the telephones. You had no value then, so that's what they did. And they ran these. These were used from World War II into the mid-50s. I can find references to them. At that time, they actually switched to this. This is a C161. And put them side by side. The main difference was this was actually a coil. If I were to put a multimeter on this terminal right here, and one here, it actually had continuity, so there was actually connectivity. It was basically some wire. The wire came in here, wrapped around a coil, then went to this terminal right there, and that's how it worked. Well, they came up with this. This is actually a transformer, actually, if you want to say coupled one. These two terminals are on this side of the transformer. These three terminals are on the other side of the transformer, so there was never direct connectivity. And this was done like this because World War II became the teletype war. Toward the end of the war, it had teletype machines everywhere in theater. They ran them on the same phone lines as they ran voice phone traffic on, so they had to have a way to run them. And what they did here is it's actually labeled. The switchboard would connect here, so your two wires to the switchboard would go there. Then you'd have two phone wires that connected here, or a long distance run, and then you connected your one wire from your teletype here, and the other went to the old stake in the ground for the grounded teletype signal. And that's how it worked. They used these. I can find reference of these being used up into the 1960s. Like I said, rugged, waterproof, had holes on it so you could mount it or hang it. And what was interesting about these, if you took two of these units like this and placed them side by side, so if I had another one sitting here, you could connect a phone from here on these two terminals right here. So you could take and add what's called a phantom circuit, and basically you split a phone or a teletype itself between two field wire circuits. You had a circuit running here and a circuit running here with the main traffic, and then you had a phantom circuit on there. And that was a big deal when they were running teletype. Also in the late 50s or mid to late 50s, I'm sorry, they actually came up with a better solution for this. It's actually a metal box about this long that hinged cover opens up, and then it's got binding posts on it to connect up your field wire to, and that's what they went to. You don't see them used a lot anymore, and part of the reason is they don't do the long field wire runs. You know, up into Korea, into Vietnam, it wasn't uncommon to run, you know, a field wire 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 miles sometimes to go between, you know, different units or between headquarters units and such, and you had to put repeaters in. As electronics advance and communications advance, what they do now is they'll run a piece of field wire from a digital phone to some kind of a switchboard system, and then from that switchboard, you know, they'll jump onto a microwave link or some kind of a radio link and go the 5 or 6 miles off that link and back onto a phone, so you don't have to have the field wire running everywhere. But I wanted to do this this video to talk a little about. So if you see these out there, you can buy them and purchase them. I don't hook them up and use them because I don't really have 5 miles of field wire running. I suppose they're good for my displays, but that's what they are. So if you see them out there or somebody has one and they ask about it, that's what it is. They're telephone repeaters. Like I said, they're passive units. There was no power applied to them. In World War II and later, they did come up with powered units that had amplifiers and vacuum tubes and batteries, and you constantly had to adjust them and change the batteries. These are pretty much, you turn them, install them, and they're good to go. So this is telephone repeaters. I hope you learned something.